Welcome! As you may recall, some weeks ago I made these cute little lidded jars, and they were actually intended to be pit-fired. But I decided to go ahead and glaze 2 of them and leave 2 of them for pit-fire, so we can see the difference. So in this video I'll show you how I go about that and what kind of interesting glaze I may come up with. So, welcome! Before I glaze these 2 lid jars, there's one more over here, there's a few things that I want to do. First of all, there's a little bit of grit or something here that makes it not so nice, so I want to grind that. I also want to do the same thing in the bottom because the application of porcelain that I put on is just a little bit running down here, and I want a clean bottom now that we're not going to pit fire it. And also I want to add some wax to this part, so I want to dip it into the glaze, and to avoid getting any of the glaze here, it's easier to add wax. Also, by adding wax, I can use my suction tool, my Car Dent Puller or something it's called. I'll show you when we get to that. We need wax for that to stick well enough. I could of course be grinding by hand, but I'm too lazy for that. So instead I have this grinding disc. I know that Diamond Core have wonderful grinding discs. I think they're too expensive, so I got this one in China, and it works great. I glued it onto a bed, and now I can use it on my wheel. So first, before I start, I just wanna wet it. It's primarily because I don't want all the dust to settle here. And then I also want to clean it from the last time I used it. So that's it. And this way also I won't create any dust. If it was dry grinded, you would need a proper mask. For this, I don't think I need it. Some people may disagree. So basically, I'm just going to use it like this. It's already getting better. Just going to add some more water. So it's almost there, a little bit more. Yeah, now it looks nice and smooth. So now I'm going to do the same thing to the bottom of this. Again, just going to add a little more water. Just need to hold on to this, otherwise it's going to fly off. It's already looking better. Now we get a clean edge. I think that's going to be good. Yeah, that looks nice. Now we're going to do the same thing to the other one. It's not as bad, but still got a little bit. So just going to clean that. Looks good now. Let me see. Yeah, got the same thing here with the button. So again, a little more water. Yeah. Yeah, now we've got a clean surface. So that's it. Now we're ready for for the next step. We are almost ready to glaze, but before we do that, as usual, we need to clean the pots from any dust or particles on the surface. Otherwise, there's a risk that the glaze won't stick. So just cleaning that, preferably also on the inside. In this case, I'm going to glaze the gallery. I'm going to show you how I deal with that. So just make sure that there's no dust here, and then we will be ready to glaze in a few minutes. And also, of course, the lid, at least the upper part, where you're going to add glaze. Now you can see the wax is dried, so it's better to deal with now. But still be careful not to touch anywhere where you want the glaze, because the glaze won't stick. And the other lid. So, and the last pot, or jar. I'm just going to remove whatever dust was down here at the bottom. I'm not going to put glaze there, but just to keep it nice and clean before the glazing. That's it. Now we're ready to glaze. It just needs to dry. In the meantime, I can prepare my glaze. Have to mix it up to be sure that there's no settling. A good mixed glaze with no lumps. And I have this Car Dent Puller, I think it's called. There are different ones, different qualities. Look out. First, I got this one. It's terrible. Now I got this one. I think they're actually both from Amazon, or maybe one of them is from Wish. I can't remember. We have this kind where you push it to the side and then it sucks out the air. That is strong and it works. But the thing about these is that they need to be completely tight. If there's just any fraction then of opening, then the air is going to suck in under it and it won't hold. So that's why it helps a lot with the wax, because with the wax you get a more clean surface. So when you put this on and also just dampen it a little bit, you just use a sponge and just lightly dampen it. Then when you put this on, and now of course it's a little more difficult when I do it in air, but still, then you push this down and now it's actually stuck really, really well, which means that when you dip it in the glaze, you won't lose it. I've done that in the past, especially with the other one, and suddenly bang, the whole thing was in the glaze. Then of course you can wash it and start all over, but it's easier to do it right the first time. I'll get back to this in a second, because first I want to do some decoration. As you know, I like to play around a lot with combination of glazes and oxides under and over the glazes. The glaze I'm going to use for these pots is called Folk Art Guild White. It's a wonderful glaze. It's one of my favorite glazes. I will put a recipe down here. It's originally, I got it from the John Britt Pitfire book. It's a wonderful book about glazing. I'll put a link to that as well. But this glaze have a lot of red iron oxide in it. I think about 10% or something, which helps make this wonderful variation of colors from white to brown, where it breaks off edges and stuff. But that also means that red iron oxide wash plays really well with this glaze. I often put it under the glaze, put some patterns and put the glaze on top, and it kind of shines through. So I'm going to play around with that a little bit on this design. So I have the red iron oxide wash in this glass. I'm just going to mix it up to make sure that it's fluid. Now in this particular application, I'm going to put some stripes on it, and then I'm going to dip it in the glaze. In case you use it on a pot that you're not going to put glaze on, then it becomes very sensitive. As soon as you touch this dry red iron oxide, it's going to smudge off and it's terrible to deal with. I got a tip from another potter that does this a lot, and she put some ball clay into it, and then it would actually smudge less. So you could try that if you apply it in such a way. So I will use this bucket as a table for my application, because what I want to do, and I think actually I want to put this on top, because what I want to do, and this needs to be cleaned, some leftover glaze on this, and we don't want that. So, and just dry it off a little bit, because what I want to do is I want to paint some stripes just on the lid part of it, and then I want to dip it in the glaze. So I don't know how that's going to be, but I hope for the best. The only reason I'm using this band wheel is that it's a little easier to paint it. So I hope you can see it here. So, something like that. I think that could be good. I will make the other one sort of the same way. And now, because my hands are not very steady, it's going to be very uneven, but then that becomes a style. Next up, I want to add some stripes with Cobalt Carbonate, and I don't know for sure how that's gonna play with this glaze, but I hope it will be good. So I want to put them in between, and let's see how that works. So, of course, now it looks funny with the colors. I hope it will look interesting in the end. So I'm going to do the same on the other lid. So, I think that's, at least it's going to be interesting. And now it's time to do the pot. And we're going to do something similar, except I'm only going to use the red iron oxide on the outside. And I'm going to use a fan brush. I love this brush. I'm going to do some vertical strokes, and we'll see how that turns out. So this is the limitation of my drawing skills. I'm not a painter, but I like to play with colors and patterns and textures and stuff. So this is what I can do, being a non-painter. So I think this is interesting, at least. So now it's time to mix up the glaze. I already mixed this, stirred it up, and I have this perfect blend, no lumps. It should be good. So I'm gonna take these And because I put it on the table, you can see there's a little bit of something from the table. Just want to make sure that there's no glaze here. And then I'm going to use my Car Dent Puller, put it on and suck it in and make sure that it's solid. It is. And then I'm going to dip it. I'm not going to give it too much. Just turn it around a little bit. And that's it. Just let it drip off a little bit. And that's it. It should be good. There's a little bit on the edge that didn't get any glaze. I will dip that in the end. I'll just take it off very carefully, like this, and then glide it on to the table. I'll do the same thing with the other one. Just make sure that it's clean, so the Car Dent Puller will soak in well, and make sure that it's good. Dip it in. Just gonna have to remove the yeah, that looks good too. There's a little bit of a lump here, but I can probably get rid of that after it dries. So that should be fine. And again, just glide it off. That's it. And now you can see there, the first one is already dry. So I can add a little bit here on the edge where I didn't get enough. Yeah, I think that's gonna be okay. And now you may wonder how I'm gonna fire this, because you probably heard that you need to fire lids and jars together, because otherwise they could warp and not fit. When dealing with stoneware, that's not my experience. I continuously fire the lids and the jars separately. It works out great. I can't guarantee you that it's going to work in all kinds of fires and all kinds of clay, but for the stoneware that I'm using, it works great. And the benefit of this is that I can glaze the inside of the gallery as well. And that means that when we, now it's still a little bit wet, but that means that when we put the lid on here, of course the underside is not going to be glazed, but it will end up looking like the whole pot is glazed. So I like that look and feel. So now I have to figure out how to glaze this pot. And I think I will probably do the inside first. And to do that, I'm just gonna pour in some glaze with a jug. And again, just mix it up to be sure that there's no lumps or anything in it. And just gonna pour in something in there. And then turn it around. And this glaze is getting wider the thicker it is, and browner the thinner it is. And for the inside, I'm not so concerned. It will be a little bit white. See, now I actually smudged it. I think it's okay for this particular pot, but you get my point. This is what happens. See my hands. Red Iron Oxide. Oh, I hate that. So maybe for the other one, I should actually try and glaze the outside first. And I think I'm just gonna dip this and see how far it gets me. Because then when it's dry, I can touch it without smudging up the Red Iron Oxide. think this actually may turn out to be a better strategy. Just gonna wipe off the bottom. I'm gonna clean that even more in a second. I'm just gonna make sure that there's not too much. Yeah, of course it has to be completely clean, otherwise naturally it will stick to my kiln. So yeah, I think that was probably probably a better strategy. So I'll do the inside afterwards. Now for this particular one, I don't think there's enough glaze in the bucket to glaze it all the way up, but I'm going to dip it as much as I can, and then I'm going to turn it around and dip it again. Well, there was actually enough. You always forget about the expansion. So, I think that's good. And again, just make sure that it's completely clean, and also leave just a little bit of edge. Now this glaze, especially with the application and layer that I'm putting on, doesn't actually run. So still, you gotta be careful. So that turned out pretty good. I still need to clean them, to clean my table, and that was good. So besides just making sure that the lids are clean, they're actually done now. So I'm just going to clean the edge of it to make sure that there's nothing sticking out there. And that's fine. That's ready to fire. And the same thing with the other one. Just making sure that the edge is clean all the way around, which is quite easy now with the wax applied. And I'm just going to dry my hands. As I mentioned, there's a little bit of a lump here. I think I can just rub it off maybe. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's okay. And the other one, let me just check. There was actually a little bit, I don't know if you can see it here, a little bit of a lump. Sometimes you need to scrape it a little bit. Just so it's not too thick, and then you can use your hand over it, and that sort of ease it out. I think that's good. So these two are ready to fire. And let me just see. I think this one needs an additional dip. Yeah, it does, because I haven't done the inside. So let's do that. So see, now I'm not smudging up the Red Iron Oxide. I should probably have done that on the other one too, but it'll be okay. The only thing missing now is, as you can see, there's a little bit on the edge. So I'm just going to give it a quick dip. So now we have the two jars and the lids glazed. So I think we're done with the red glaze here, the Folk Art Guild White, it's called, even though it's very red at this point. But of course, I'm not going to stop with that. Now we have the Red Iron Oxide under the glaze. We have the glaze, but I'm also going to add some of my special Ash Glaze. And I have a video about how I did it, but this particular Ash Glaze is made from the leftover ashes from when I do pitfire. So it's not just ashes from wood. There's also some leftover salts and oxides and all kind of things in it, iron. And I made a glaze out of that. And it's actually very interesting. And on top of this glaze, it actually looks awesome. And I'm just going to splash, I'm going to pour some of it over, and it will sort of create a little bit of the same feel you do get in a wood fire. You're going to get some of the ashes that you would get in a wood fire, and also it's not going to be an even layer, and it will just give it some variation. I hope it will be good. We'll see in a couple of days. Now the glaze is well mixed, and I poured up some of it in this jug. And now I'm gonna pour over some of it on my pot. And I'm not gonna cover the entire pot. I'm just gonna pour it over like this. And maybe some on the other side too. Something like this. I hope this is going to be interesting. Just gonna wipe off the bottom. And I will clean this a little bit more in a second. Just make sure that there's not too much right now. I'm going to do the same thing to the other one. Maybe keep it more horizontal. So, something like this. Also, clean the bottom. Have to be careful with the Ash Glaze. It tends to run a little bit more, so I don't want it to be too close to the edge. I will put these ones on insulating fire bricks, so if it runs, it will be easier to detach it again. I think this is going to be interesting. We'll see in a couple of days. Now it's time for the final cleaning, and then I can start the kiln. Now I just have to make sure that the bottom is completely clean and that we have a nice edge down here. I don't want it running out over my kiln shelves. I think this looks good. And also make sure that the table I put it on is clean. The same thing with the other one. And just want to make sure that there's a small edge down here. So I think this is good. Now I'm just going to put it in the kiln. So here you can see how I fire the jars and the lids separately. So the lids are flat down because I have no glaze in the bottom. And the jars are standing here. And I hope it's all going to go well. It have done in the past. So wish me luck. I'm ready to fire. Good morning. Now we are ready to unload the kiln. And as usual, I said this before, be patient. Don't open the kiln too early, because if you do, especially with the glaze fire, it can crackle the glazes. You don't want that after all this work. And also, if you open it too early and the kiln is too warm, it puts some stress on your heating elements and they won't last as long as they should. And they're pretty expensive to replace, so please be patient. Anyway, I'm very excited today because I have these lidded jars that I glazed, and I added this Ash Glaze, as you remember, and some extra paintings underneath it. So let's go and see how it looks. I already took a sneak peek view and removed some of the top pots so we can see the lidded jars and how they turned out. And look at how the patterns shine through, and especially the cobalt. It's very interesting. It's difficult to see, of course, down here, but so far it looks really good. Let's take a look inside and see how it turned out. Now I'm inside, and after taking a closer look at these lidded jars, I'm actually very, very happy. First of all, an interesting thing here, I did, as you noticed, fire the lids and the jars separately. And despite the fact that many potters will tell you it's not good because they may warp in different directions and they won't fit, they fit perfectly. And of course, again, I can't promise you that's going to work for all kinds of clay, probably not. Porcelain, probably not. but on stoneware it definitely works. And the advantage, of course, is that now I have the whole gallery glazed, and I just think that looks better. And also, when the lid is on, the whole pot looks glazed. And talking about the glaze, I love how this Ash Glaze alter the underlaying glaze. Of course, if I had textures on it, there would be more variation in the folk art gilt white. But even this milky white surface is very good, I think. And with the Ash Glaze on top of it, it gives it a little bit of that wood fire quality. Of course, it's not like wood fired, but it still have that sort of a little bit wild colors to it. And I really like how the lid turned out. Except I'm a little bit surprised that the Red Iron Oxide didn't shine through more. It's actually very little, but the blue did. And it actually matches this glaze beautiful. And my Maker's Mark turned out beautiful. That actually got completely brown from the folk art gilt white. So that looks really good. And it's the same thing with the other one. They both succeeded. The lid fits perfectly and actually fits all the way around, so it's circular. So it's not just one. Sometimes you make a lid and it only fits in a certain position, but this one fits all the way around. It's actually a very nice fit. I think it looks good. I'm very happy. So in case you enjoyed this video, or even if you didn't, please subscribe, share, write a comment if you have some good ideas. And I hope you come back next week. I'll have a new video on next Sunday at about 5 p.m. Central European Time. So until then, I hope you have a good day.